Hello guys, and welcome to another episode of the Pluto series. And today I am doing the Pluto in Scorpio generation. Now this generation is the second millennials, and they are born because when Pluto went into Scorpio, it was a mixture of, it was 83, 84 babies. So for me personally, like I've said before with the previous one, if you were born in late 83, early 85, you are Pluto in Scorpio, but also you're on the cusp. So Pluto, it retrograded into Scorpio in late 83, went into Scorpio, it retrograded from Libra into Scorpio in late 83. After then in 84, it stayed, I think like May, or I think it was like August, it went into Scorpio, it went into Libra, then it went into Scorpio. It was like that. So there's a mixture of, like, especially like 83, 84 babies who are Pluto in Scorpio, and then they go back into Libra and it goes back into Scorpio. But I'll say from like 84, even though I said 83, I'll say 84 and 85 babies, they're on the, especially from September, they're on the cusp of Libra because it's early degrees. But Pluto in Scorpio, the attributes are more Pluto, are 86 going forward, because the next generation to come up is going to be Pluto in Libra. So people that are like 1972 to 1984, 85, they're the next generation that's coming up. But for now, so some of the early 80s babies are going to be having those, more or less attributes of Libra. But anyway, we're talking about Pluto in Scorpio, the generation that are running things now. So these powerful group, I know I said it to all of them, but this is a powerful group because they are ruled by Scorpio. This is Pluto, this generation is ruled by Pluto. So it intensifies the whole attributes of Scorpio. It's very powerful. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, when they were, when they were born, it was such a powerful experiences for the parents, for the mum. Such a powerful experience in terms of like the whole birthing and even like the pregnancy. I can imagine that it was extremely, life changing. But this generation, they are a fixed. When I'm gonna do, when I go more, guys, I probably will repeat myself, so bear with me. But this is a fixed water sign, and it was traditionally ruled by Mars. And so Pluto and Scorpio, they are about transformation. They're about transformation in all walks of life. Some of this generation, they have this dark energy about them, but it's not like depressing, it's just like a deep intensity. So when you're talking to them, it's very, you have to like come with what you need to say. They don't mess around. They want things done quick. They want it done now. The last, when they were born, especially like the 80s, it was such a powerful time in terms of, like, it was like the AIDS pandemic. We were in, especially in London, we was in a recession. I can talk for London, obviously probably around the world as well, but like 83 going forward, it was a time of, was in a recession. Things were very harsh. It was in the AIDS pandemic. So and also, Scorpio rules the, the sexual side. Okay, so it was a lot. It was a lot in terms of, people definitely afraid to like have intercourse because of the the whole pandemic. So when that happened, it cast like a real dark shadow during this time. And this is a generation also that is about, and also in the 80s as well, especially if you 70s 80s babies remember, especially when in terms of like popular culture, it was more like there was a lot of horror movies that came out, like Freddy Krueger and Nightmare on Elm Street. Obviously these people were babies, so obviously, when you're born, whenever you're born, you're gonna have that, whether it's good or bad or traumatic, you're gonna carry that. So there's a lot of horror movies. It was sort of like, it was quite gothic, especially when it went on to, like, remember, this generation's from 83 to 95, and there was a lot of during that time as well, there's a lot of like gothic things came out, a lot of it felt actually like a dark energy. Also with music was like the grunge era as well. So some of you early Pluto in Scorpio will probably remember like Nirvana, and probably didn't really understand it, but still we had like Tim Burton, he had Nightmare Before Christmas, Harry Potter. So it was all very, it was very mystical. It was a very mystical time, very dark time, very mystical time. It was almost like, whatever the darkness that you have within, you can actually create it. And I feel that other previous generations, they probably picked up on that Pluto and Scorpio energy. So when these kids came around, we're actually seeing a lot of them do all of this. So another thing with this generation is, Pluto and Scorpio, it brings a lot of intensity in life, like I said before, and it's about being close, it's about, togetherness, it's very deep, it's like intimate, and a lot of this energy is like that when it comes to like relationships, when it comes to friendships, when it comes to like business, anything to do with business. Remember, this generation is ruled by the 8th house. The 8th house is about all of this, deep, dark intimacies, death, rebirth. This generation is also wants to transform whatever they come into contact with. They want to transform it, and they can do, there's different ways that they do it. They do it in a way that can be very, pushy. It could be very manipulative. It could be also very controlling. So this generation is about deep and extreme transformation. And obviously when you have that, it does bring a lot of pain. It brings anxiety. It brings paranoia. When this generation came, it was also about not being afraid to really go to the dark side. It's about showing. It's about exposing. Okay? And when I talk later on, you're going to be hearing why, they've actually come of age now. So when they do, this generational planet, I can see that a lot of them, when they were younger, a lot of them some of them actually documented their thoughts, documented their deep dark thoughts, lots of diaries. There was a lot of secrecy that was going on. And we can also see with this generation that when it came to everything in life, and even if you didn't really agree, even if how can I put this? Even if you didn't really agree with how they were living life, this is the life that they actually wanted to lead. So this is a very emotional generation. This generation is very emotional. When they, whatever they say, whatever they do, it can be very extreme, but it's also very emotional. It's a fixed. Remember, this is a fixed generation. We're actually seeing how they are doing it now. This generation is also a generation that You know, they are at the forefront when it comes to like social media. So they are exposing like the deeper side of themselves. And you know, it's obviously definitely to be admired on how they are projecting themselves, on how they are, you know, going about life as well. They like to, you know, because not only is this generation very much about the extremes, it's a very psychic generation. And you know, all the water signs are psychic. You know, Pisces are the most psychic, then it's Scorpio, then it's Cancer. So with Pluto, with this generation, it's like they feel what's going to be happening before it actually happens. And some, you know, some of this generation, they don't, you know, it's not that they don't want to feel, that they feel, but they're not really sure of how to. It's like, you know, it's like they see the future, but they can also not put a downer on it, but it's more like, I'm not sure. They're quite cautious. The ones that are fearless, they are the ones that are just sprouting it out. So this generation is all about, you know, investigating, going to like the deep shadows, the deep dark thoughts of what's going on in the world. They're all about exposure. They are the investigators of this generation. Of, you know, out of all the generations, they're the ones that do like the work. They're the journalists. They're the, you know, private investigators. You know, so it's no surprise that we're seeing quite a lot of this generation doing a lot of like media work at the moment. But they're doing all the work. They are exposing things, and the things that they are exposing is, you know, racism, sexism, transphobia, homophobia. They're exposing all of this. And they are, in a way, they're about equality. They are also about, you know, I remember when once I was at a drinks party, and you know, we was all like together, and someone said something to me, something, you know, silly. You know, they didn't know better. And I was talking to one guy, and he was saying, oh, you know, we was just like talking about, you know, London life. He was English as well. And, you know, he was, I think he was Pluto and Scorpio. And, you know, someone said something to me, and he goes, hey, you can't say that. And he was like, why? And he was like, yeah, because, no, yeah, someone said something like, I'm from the colonies, and obviously my background's Jamaican. And he was like, yeah, you can't say that to the guy. And he was like, oh, why not? And he goes, you can't say that, she's from the colony, she's born in London. And I was like, whoa. Oh, obviously I can stand up for myself, but, you know, I'm a Pluto in Libra, so I'm all about what made you think that? What made you say what you said? And the Pluto and Scorpio was like, no, bah, 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 bah. You know, and I was just like, okay. You know, but that's just like a example. You know, they're all about the truth, and it's like the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. It's like they judge, their jury, and their word is final. You know, so it is to definitely be admired. And it just showed the different sides of my generation and his generation. And it's not to say I didn't agree with how he was doing it. I felt that it was extremely passionate in what he was saying. It was about conviction. It was about the truth. It was also about, you know, you need to, like, you know, research before you even speak. So that's what this generation's about. Research before you even speak. Now, with the other generations, like I've done, guys, I'm going to be doing, you know, this is like the good, and also the bad, and this is the ugly. Okay? So, yes, so, you know, sometimes, you know, with this generation, it can be, you know, there is a side that is so intense that some people can just be really put off about it. And it's not, you know, they're not here to scare us. They're just here to emote and intensify. This is a generation that are talking about, you know, their anxiety and their depression. This is a generation that is talking about, you know, they've been abused in some way. This is a generation that's talking that, you know, they're talking about being bullied at work. They're not hiding this. This is a generation that's not afraid. This is also a generation that when they're working, it's time to go home, they're going home. They're going to listen to Pluto in Libra. I mean, not Libra. They're going to listen to the Pluto in it may be Libra, but they're not going to listen to the Pluto in Leo, especially because they are actually clashing with this generation. You know, people that are born in like the late 30s, late 30s and the 50s, and some of these people are their parents, so they are definitely clashing with that generation. I feel that they get on very well with the Pluto in Virgo because they have similar ideals. Now, like the Pluto in Virgo, this generation is broken up into two. So you have the early 80s kids who embody the, you know, that the Pluto in Scorpio. Then you have the other side, which is like 88 to, so I'll say 86 to 87. They embody the whole. And then you got from like 92 to 95. That is definitely, but obviously they're in 90s. But then you have the 88 to 91. And they have conjunctions in Neptune. They have Neptune, what was it? Uranus and Neptune conjunction. And a lot of them are also polluted. They're also Saturn in Capricorn, the 88 to 91 kids. They're Saturn in Capricorn. They have that Neptune Uranus conjunction in Capricorn too. So that generation is more, you know, if they're using it well to transform when it comes to like their career, finances, when it comes to, you know, their goals, if they use it well, they'll be flying. But some of them who are not using it well, this Pluto Scorpio generation, you can see the greed, you can see the showing off, you can see the, you know, look what I've got, look at this, look at that, you know, look how much money I've got, look at, you know, it's very over the top. And again, it's to be admired, or it could be, people could feel it's quite a disdain. But that's one thing I wanted to say. There's different types of Pluto in Scorpio generation, you know, but the ones that I feel, the ones that are, you know, are very different are the Saturn in Capricorn generation. And they're the ones at the moment that are at the forefront when it comes to, you know, selling and on social media, getting sponsorships, buying, you know, designer clothes, cars, and, you know, they're the ones that are all embodying this whole list. But they're just showing the wealth in, and they're also showing how hard they're working. They're also showing, you know, this is me. You know, so the older generation are probably thinking, what is this? This is not good. Without realizing they're doing the same. Just that this Pluto and Scorpio, they're just upfront with it, you know. So this, you know, the Pluto and Scorpio generation, they're just very upfront with how they are showing themselves to the world. Now, also, you know, we have the dark side of this generation. You know, there's manipulation, there's also bullying, there's also corruption, there's some dodginess on the underworld as well. When it comes to like work, this generation wants to lead. And nothing wrong with leading. Remember, they are traditionally ruled by Mars, which is Aries. So this generation, how they are coming across to the world on the whole is, you know, they are pioneering. You know, they're pioneering something that is already done already, basically. You know, because each generation, they have been inspired / copying. Let's not say inspired. They've been copying the other generations, and this generation is no different. So the other dark side to this generation is that when they do, you know, start something, there's this sort of like this is all about me now. Because remember, the opposite is Taurus. Okay, and I keep forgetting to talk about that. You know, whenever you have a sign, you know, sometimes you go to the opposite of your sign, which is the good or the shadow side. So obviously with this good side is, you know, they're very loyal. They're very loyal to a cause. They stick with what they know. They're very loyal to their friends. They're very loyal to, you know, projects that they are doing or producing. They're very, you know, masterful. They're all about mastering what they are going to be creating. But the other shadow side is, you know, once they get there, not all, you know, this is the general. Once they get there, they can be like, okay, this is about me. Listen to me, all about me. It can be very dark. It can be very, and also it can be very corrupted. And also on the other side is like, if they're not seen, they could actually do a lot of things to be seen. This is a council culture generation as well. Okay, this is a council culture generation, and I've said this before, and I probably repeat myself anyway when I talk about more of this generation. But the council culture, it has its, you know, it has its place. It definitely has its place, and I feel in the beginning, this generation, it was all about, because council culture was started off with, you know, African Americans anyway, and as you all know, whenever black people start something, it transcends all over the world with the word woke, and you know, but actually then it gets weaponized. So with this generation, it's council culture, and council culture, like I said, it has its place. Things need to be cancelled, especially things that are very outdated. Some people of this generation are working with that. They are working with cancelling out an old, outdated system. They want something new. They are not afraid to go to, you know, the government or call out people from higher ups and make sure that they're cancelled because they don't have beliefs in what's going on now. And, you know, good for them to doing that. You know, because there's certain things in this world that we don't need. And I feel, you know, this generation, they're seeing this, they're calling it out, and they want it gone. Okay, so that's like the powerful side of this generation. The other side to this is cancel culture going wrong. You know, it's almost like bullying. It's almost like if you do not agree with what I'm saying, if you do not agree with, you know, if yes, it's fine that you have views, but this is the right view. And if someone hasn't got the right, if someone's got a different view to some of this generation, they want them cancelled. So that's where cancel culture goes completely wrong. And what can also happen with that is you won't be able to say anything, you know, because it's a case of you have to, you know, because it's because of the loyalty with this generation. You know, Pluto and Scorpio, there's a deep intensity and loyalty in the belief system. So you have to sort of like go by, you know, remember Mars, go by my rules, do what I'm saying, or you're going to be cancelled. So it's like bullying, it's also manipulation, it's also a thing of, you know, it's like, it's almost like, because, you know, sometimes Mars, even the sign of Aries, it can go power mad. So it's like, you know, follow my lead. If you don't, this is what's going to happen to you. So people can get very afraid. And this is what we're actually seeing now. I'm not on the fence. I'm just seeing both sides. You know, I'm seeing the older generation complaining about being remember, Pluto and Libra, we are in the middle. We're seeing the older generation complaining that they're getting cancelled, and we're seeing Pluto in Scorpio and Pluto in Sagittarius, you know, are pushing for the new, you know. So it's about seeing both sides, but also I'm a firm believer that there's certain things that we don't need, things that need to be cancelled, but there's also a theme of, this is my view, you know, this is what I think, this is what I feel, I'm going to say it. Why am I being cancelled for it as well? but this generation on the dark side can go really gung-ho in, no, that's it, out. And what this does, it can appear that, you know, you're gaining power because you're like this. You appear that you are starting something fresh, you're starting something new because you have outs someone. You have outs, you know, you've complete, that person's life is completely ruined. This is going to happen, that's it. But then, remember, the Scorpio is a fixed sign, and, you know, whatever they believe and think, that's it. But afterwards, sometimes, when we do things in haste, when we do things without thinking, when we do things when it comes to our emotions, we may have to go back to the drawing board, but by then it's too late. You know, I've worked with some Pluto and Scorpio generations, and some of them are cool. You can see that a lot of them are just navigating their way. Remember, this generation, they came up in, you know, this generation, they came of age in the 2000s when they were in their teens and also their 20s. You know, so they saw, you know, this was in their, you know, this was in a house where it wasn't all of, some of them went college. They went to, you know, this generation went to college, and they went to, you know, they started to work in the 2000s. And it was all about, you know, earning money, you know, learning the courses that they wanted to learn, and, you know, having their first job, going to university. That's what they were doing. Obviously, they saw what was going on in the world, but it was more, you know, especially the ones like in the 80s, the early 80s, they came up in the 2000s, and especially like I'll say the early 80s, a lot of them did actually, you know, witness a lot of stuff that went on in the 90s. But obviously they were kids, they were going to high school in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, you know, so they saw a lot of stuff, some of the stuff that were probably like implanted in them. But they came more of age in 2008 when Pluto went into Capricorn. So yes, the 2000s was like, you know, that they're getting their bearings and everything, but, you know, when it came to 2008, that's when things started to really kick off. These things they wanted to say, and they sure as hell said it, and obviously they should be applauded for it as well. So yeah, so this generation, they very much, you know, that's like the shadow side of what some of them are emoting, you know, because remember, this is, you know, when you're talking general, you know, if you're Pluto and Scorpio and you're not done this, then, you know, it's like, oh, that's not me. But, you know, all the generations have a shadow side. You know, even the nice Pluto in Libra, even like the jolly generation of Sagittarius, they all have a dark side. I'll be talking about that later on anyway. But yes, so the dark side of this generation is just doing things too extreme, and when you do things too extreme, there's no way of coming back. This generation also, I got my little trusty notes here, guys. They also, you know, I'll say that, you know, what's happening now with them, you know, especially when it comes to like how they're navigating themselves at work, it's very intense, but also it's very honest. You know, I'll say this generation is very honest, and whether you like it or not, it's sort of like that's your business because they're just them. They are forever them. And what we're actually seeing with them is also that, you know, they're making things pretty uncomfortable for a lot of people. They're making things pretty uncomfortable, and I personally don't feel that it's uncomfortable. I think it's just life. I feel that, this is the psychologists of this generation. This generation are doing some deep psychological work. Like I said before, they're the ones that are talking about their anxiety and depression. And I feel that when they spoke about this, it was very shocking to a lot of people, like and I feel that, when they spoke about this, it was only because, when things bubble up so much, it can explode. And with this generation, because they're so emotional, they're like very emotional, they need to let this out. And they're not doing it for shock value. They're just doing it because it's a need. And they've normalized, they have really normalized the whole therapy. And, a lot of them are actually finding themselves now in this world. They're finding their voice. They're finding their passion. They're finding themselves through, doing witchery, through music, through arts, through, psychology. A lot of them are counselors. A lot of them are doing, a lot of them are just putting the work in at the moment. And I feel that if, we needed this, we actually needed this generation to really come through. And they've come through in 2008, and they're going to go into like their sort of like shadow side for the next 20 years in 2023, 2024, when it goes through their fourth house. And like I said, we needed this generation to show, because they are doing it for themselves. They're doing it to transform themselves. They're doing this to also show that, if I speak about this, then you can do it too. But also, you're seeing older generations feeling like, why they have to always document what they're saying? Why do they always do this on social media? Because it's their time. It's what they actually have to do. This generation also, I feel that they're not really afraid to. Some of them, some aspects of this generation, not really afraid to say when they're wrong, but some of them are. Some of them are. Remember I was speaking to someone, they were saying that how they worked with this person, and I was like, oh, when were they born? They were like, oh, they're born like 1990 something or 90 something, I don't remember. And I was like, oh, okay, and I just immediately knew, they're not being rude. It's just, this is the way they think things should be. Now, some of this generation, some of them are in their early 30s, easing into, some of them are actually going through their like Saturn return, and some of them are in their mid 30s. Okay, and with Saturn returns, I've actually read this, Saturn returns, they are very harsh. So some of this generation can actually feel like life is really harsh at the moment, but you really come into your own when you're 36, when you go for your second Jupiter return, or is it your third? When Jupiter comes back again, that's when you really come into your own. And with this generation being fixed, there's this danger that they'll think that what they're doing will last forever. But nothing lasts forever, and I feel some of you will actually agree that, if we don't live forever, your job is not forever. Yeah? So nothing lasts forever. So there can be this danger that things are going to stay the same. You're going to be doing this job the same. You're going to be the CEO. You're going to be the head. You're going to be doing this and you're going to be. It's not going to be forever. When a lot of them reach 36 going forward, that's when change is going to come, and the Pluto and Scorpio are going to transform again. So some of them may feel very uncomfortable about that. Okay, but it's this generation, you are liberating. It's all about, as long as this generation knows that they've liberated the previous generations in a way some of them will never even envision that they had. And when they came on this earth to do their job. Yes, a lot of it was in a bang. Some of it was in a, a bit of a shock. But they came to do what they do. And I've noticed a lot of this generation, a lot of them have tattoos and their inks. I feel that sometimes when they do speak as well, a lot of it's so like, how didn't you feel the pain? It's like, no, I needed this pain. So it's no surprise, guys, that a lot of this generation have got like nose rings, piercings on different parts of their bodies, because it's like pain feels good. It's like they're actually living. It's also helping them to really transform as well. And we also have to remember, where they came through was such a different time. It's almost like when they're looking at other people, other generations, they're thinking, don't you get it? Don't you understand? Don't you know what's going on? If you don't know, I'm going to let you know. I'm going to show you. So there's this lovely side to this generation. It's a side that is also, it's actually inspiring. Like the next generation, i.e. the Pluto in Sagittarius generation. This generation also, let's not forget, they are out there protesting. They're protesting. It's like they remind me of the Pluto in Leo generation, in a way. Because the Pluto in Leo, they were out there protesting about, war and peace, the Vietnam War. And this generation, they're like protesting about Black Lives Matter. They're about equality, they're protesting all of these things. They want their voice to be heard, and their voice is actually heard. They're shouting at like higher ups, like I said before. So they're out there protesting in the streets. But I feel that they've also seen what the previous generations have done and thought, because remember, all the fixed signs, they all follow each other in a way. But like the Pluto in Leo, they're the only leaders though out of all the fixed signs, because they're ruled by the sun. And with this generation, they actually are, they're here to transform, a deeper side of ourselves that we didn't want to bring out. They're here to transform using your voice to the better good. They're here to transform in us, showing that in order for you, if you're getting like these dark leanings, you have to transform in a way by doing psychological work. And if you have to do it through social media, this is what you need to do, because it can make you feel better. So they're transforming everyone. They're bringing out the darker selves of all of ourselves and pushing it out there. And they are unafraid to do it. They're unashamed as well. So, some people can say it's a complicated generation. Personally, I feel that they're very, powerfully intense, emotional generation. They're not to be afraid of at all, because like I said before, each generation has come on this earth to do something, and this is what they are doing. So whether you agree with it or not is another story, but just know that this is what they're here to do. And and like I said, they've felt a lot. This generation has also felt a lot. They've seen a lot and they've felt a lot. And they feel it more on a deeper, darker level. When they're speaking to someone, they know what's going on beneath the scenes. When they are reading the news or anything that they're watching or seeing, they're seeing the deeper, darker sides to it. And they're just exposing it. And they're doing it in the best way that they can. So they're here to transform. And also the fact that they are ruled by Pluto, it makes them, extremely more powerful. So now I'm going to talk about the tarot for this sign. So let's get to the tarot.